Alright, just a quick tidy up. I've actually just done all them, as I've said. Also knocked the corners off them, if you can see, just so when the cable goes around it's not trying to make it go around a bend that's too tight. It's a bit more awkward to see them on that side. So that's it. All finished. Of course you can make this longer if you want, as I said before. Just add more on if you wish. But I'm keeping it small. I don't want to generate gigawatts. Just a few milliamps will do, just for keeping some LEDs running. Now into new territory now. I've actually built this before for someone, but I never went no further than that. He was trying to build something like this in his shed and couldn't work out how to do it, so I built this for him in his shed. And basically it's just wire it like that, clockwise on them all, which is something like that. This is much simpler to build than that, and it'll be cheaper. Well, it'll work as good as another matter. So I've not actually tried one of these, so it's all experimental for me as well. That's 60 winds on the first one, and it's a good idea to mark which one's which. So that's my start and that's my end. That's my 3 phases on, 60 turns on each. Put my rod back through and varnish all that on the rod. But as you can see, there's plenty of room to get more on, so I'm just going to test it up first and see what we come out with. Of course I've got to build the slew rings first, which is the next thing when I put the shaft back in. But we should have really varnished this before we put these wires on, just to give it some more rigidity. So, or lacquer, whichever you want to use, some sort of protection anyway. Just a little thing, when you take this bar out to wire it up, you'll also notice if you let it dry long enough, the actual glue will have made thread inside the bobbin. So you don't knock your bar out, turn it back in, it'll stop your bobbin spinning on its axis. In fact, the threads are so good I can tighten that down onto it. So that shows you how good the threads are within. Next thing is we need these bits. This is from K&S Engineering. You can find them on the internet. They make piping for models and things like that. So the model shop you get this from. This is from it's the same stuff as I used on my Bedini motors, and you can see it's just 10mm diameter pipe. It fits not perfectly, but good enough for what we require on our shaft, because we're going to fill that with some kind of resin in a few minutes. And that fits on there, and that's the slew rings. So we'll be cutting 3 of those off of that and cutting that 40mm. I'll do this 40mm first. I like to use one of these small pipe cutters for this. If you haven't got one of them or one of them, you can always use an hacksaw. Next thing is, you need to put 3 marks on. First one 5mm, second one 15mm, and the third one would be 25. Now we're going to drill 3 holes through there, and that's for the wires to come through to their relevant place. Right, that's that little bit done. Also a little break out there, I don't know if you can actually see that on the end of that. And that's so somewhere for the wires to go in, it doesn't trap up against the screw and damage them. So the wires go in there and out there. You get some tape around that to stop them getting damaged on there. As old Red Green would say, duct tape. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to put a piece of duct tape around there. So our piece of duct tape on there, as you can see, it doesn't matter if it's too long, we can cut it off later. As you can see, that's our sleeve on, just enough room there to get us wires down and a bit of resin or something to pour down it. So it's actually a good idea having this a bit longer, we can cut it off later. But next thing is to cut off 3 pieces of this pipe, or 6 to 8mm, 3 pieces. There's my 3 brass rings cut. Got to super glue them in place now, of course, and I'll just get on and do that. But I think you can see the general idea. Your wire goes down there and your connections come up there and solder to each track. You could actually pull them up, solder them on the back, shove them on, but I don't wish to make it more complicated than it probably is to some people. Well, that's my brass rings on and glued on. It's just modeller's glue I use, nothing special. Next thing we need to do is to find all the ends and all the starts. All the starts just wrap together and just shove out your way for a few minutes. We're concentrating on all the ends. It doesn't really matter which order we put these on, so the first thing that we need to do is remove these. Now we thread those wires down our shaft, and this is where the tricky bit comes. We need to poke one of each up the middle. In other words, dink, dink, dink. Well, as you can see, that's our 3 wires now poking through. I hope this is all in focus because it don't appear to be down here. But anyway, there's our 3 wires. The next thing we've got to do, as we are pulling them out, is get them on the end of that. Note to self, next time idiot, leave more wire. Now as you're going down, pull your wires out like so. Try and keep all your wires going through that little nick we put in. If you can. Like so. Now all we've got to do is to clean them off and just solder them to the end like so. Right, that's our 3 soldered on. You can see 3 big clumps there, so clean them down a bit. If you're really good, and I normally do, but I just thought it'd be too complicated for other people to do, is I actually solder these wires inside before I slide them on. So in other words, when they're out here, the wires through the bar, through the holes, I solder them and then put the rings on. And that way you get that hole is underneath where the connection is. Saves all this blobbing on the side, but it's not going to be a problem for what we're doing. Next thing, of course, is to cut these and to solder all these 3 together. Next thing to do before we finally seal this up with some tape or something is we put that on there, set the meter on bleep continuity, and make sure they read. You should also be able to read now whether it'll bleep or not, but you should get a field reading. Between all 3. We also need to test to make sure that there's no shorts to the axle, like so, which there isn't. We can now get on. Now I've trimmed that off, we can get in on and start putting some resin down the top of that, mix a little bit at a time, and you can actually just sort of feed it in. We're going to put pox in between all these, try and get some down the shaft and round this end here, just to seal that so it can't do that. We will be putting a nut and wash on that end to push it down to it anyway. Now that's all done, you've got to keep rotating it until it starts to go off. In other words, to keep it in a cylindrical fashion. And I usually do that at front, little blow heater. Next thing we've got to do is clean all this up and get any of the 2-pot, which I use that Loctite stuff. We need to clean all them off, but we're not going to clean off anything in between or on the ends because that's what's holding all the slew ring together. And you obviously can see it, I did that down there. You can see it's not totally gone yet, mine, so I've got to leave it. Now's the best time to actually clean it, just before it's gone off. It's much easier to do, and as you can see, all you need to do is just slowly go around all that. Right, that's all my slew rings cleaned. I know what some people are thinking, well that's just a motor. It isn't. A motor would have a commutator, not slew rings. So this is designed as a generator from word go, not a motor converted, which is same as the 3-phase outputs on that. While you're cleaning off, don't forget to clean your threads. If you wanted to, now would be a good time to varnish all this, lacquer it, do whatever you want, blah 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 blah.